Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wealthy Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Ward Powell. And if you're a dentist looking to crack the code on how to grow your practice and dominate in this space, then stick around. You're in the right place. Every week, we're sitting down with some amazing dentists who are doing incredible things in their businesses. We're talking about everything from how they keep their teams loyal and dedicated to how they stay ahead of the game in this crazy, fast-changing industry. You'll hear about hacks like using virtual assistants to free up your time, strategies to make more sales with less effort, and even mind-blowing stories about patents and inventions that are changing the industry as we know it. And it's not just about growing your practice, it's also about finding out what works from a clinical perspective. Whether you're just starting or you're ready to scale to the next level, there's something here for you. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive in. Let's go. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Neal Johnson, for joining us today here at the Wealthy Dentist Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. I'm glad to have you here. Just wanted to start off by asking, as I ask every person that comes in to talk with us, so what got you interested in dentistry, in the world of dentistry? How did that all start?
That's interesting. I never really was interested in dentistry, to be honest with you. I don't have, uh, you know, I do have a cousin that's a dentist, which I only discovered after being a dentist for a while. I never knew. We didn't have anybody in the family. Didn't really have any friends that were dentists per se. But I was in graduate school pursuing a PhD in microbiology, and it was mostly centered around some type of oral bacteria. So that is how I got introduced to the world of dentistry in the first place. And my major professor uh, suggested that that would be a good area of study for me after I was finished with a PhD. So that's how it kind of started. But can't say that I ever grew up saying, "Oh, I really want to be a dentist," and nah, nothing like that. It was most of this is just serendipitous, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, hey, I mean, serendipity works a lot of times, right? For
Yes.
most of us. So, so after getting your, I guess, spreading your wings in dentistry, what happened then?
Yeah. So what happened is I actually before I got into dentistry specifically, I was teaching dental students.
Huh?
So I had exposure in that way as well. I was teaching dental students. I had got into dentistry, but I had deferred a year. And so I was teaching dental students, went through dental school, still teaching, doing all those types of things. And after dental school, stayed at the university and taught, did research, those types of things, educational research, basic science research, those types of things. That's what I did mostly, travel the country, giving lectures. Um, and then I did that for about 5 years or so and practiced dentistry in the faculty practice at the time. And then after that, I was given an opportunity to uh, pursue a residency in anesthesiology, which I did and stayed at the university again for a couple of years, teaching residents and those types of things, and before going out on my own. So now I, for the last about 10 years or so, I've been mobile or itinerant anesthesiologist. I'm working specifically or most often with pediatric patients and splitting my time between that and my dental consultancy. So I've been doing that for quite a while now.
Oh, wow. 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 Quite an extensive resume, as I saw reading your bio. I mean, you've been really, really busy.
Yeah.
And may I say, you done it in, from what I observed in quite a, quick, I wouldn't say quick, but it seems like you just done it like easy flowing, so to speak. And I know this is not an easy track to try to get into or to go into microbiology on a PhD in, and then go and get your DSS, and then I mean the DDS, and then MBA.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah. I forgot that part. Yeah. Yeah. I did go to yeah. I forgot that.
I
Yeah.
forgot that part, right? So it's
Yeah,
like,
I did go
how
to
is this?
yeah, I did attend University of California at Berkeley for a couple of years doing an MBA
Yeah, yeah.
because I had, I wanted to understand a little bit more of the business side. I wanted to really I thought I wanted to go into the industrial side, spend time in pharmaceutical or biotech companies, and quickly realized that I really don't like working for other people. I just want to do my own thing, and I could not bring myself to as much as I applied for different jobs and whatnot. I couldn't bring myself to answer to our boss and do those types of things. So no, but the business degree was fun. I met several people who are still my friends today, and I can call on any of them and for help with anything. So it was a really rewarding experience, to be honest with you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So all of those different disciplines, uh, how did you manage to, like, as you gathered the information that you needed to gather on the business end, how did you manage to mesh the business with your practice? I mean, how did all of that come about? I mean, like, I know a lot of the application you have to do yourself. You can go through all of the different types of studies that you do, but to get out there in the real world and really put it together, it's kind of a different kind of situation. Could you elaborate on that thought for me a little bit?
Absolutely. So going to business school and doing business are two different things, right? You quickly realize that. So I think what it did allow me to do, number one, is to engage with people on a level that helps me to understand the lingo, first of all. It allows me to do basic things like read financial statements, understand basic accounting, those types of things, because as you're running your business, you need to kind of understand those things. So, for example, now when my CPA quarterly goes through my statements, he said, okay, I'm going to skip over this because you know what that is and whatever, because I understand, right? So it allows me to look at things a little bit more with a critical eye. And when I'm evaluating some type of business transaction, business deal, or whatever, not to say that I know everything, I certainly don't, but I certainly do have some basic foundation as to how I should be viewing certain things. Even running my own business, my consultancy, and other things like that, my practice, I can quickly look and apply some of the things that I've learned in school to be able to run business more effectively. And I also know what I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I know when I'm out of my depth, and I know if there's somebody who knows something better than me, I know how to call on them. So I think that's what learning more and taking on additional knowledge and education helps you recognize how much you don't know. And so while it expands your knowledge and your scope and your viewpoint, it also helps you appreciate those people who have certain skill sets and expertise in particular areas. And it's easy for me to defer to them because I understand how challenging certain things are. No, the CPA is not going to come and tell me how to do anesthesia. And because I have a business degree, I'm not going to tell him or her how to do accounting. It doesn't work that way. But I have to say, it does give me a really good perspective. And the network that you gain by going to Berkeley, for example, has exposed me to a lot of different people in different places that I would have never had the opportunities to meet or be exposed to some of the opportunities that I have been so far.
That's great. That's great. So then, so you took those pieces and you gradually put them together. Um, so I'm wondering now, I'm assuming you still do some clinical work. You still practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. So, right. So as we speak, I'm in Montana at the moment.
Okay.
So for a number of years, I would travel between, so my home base is in California. I work there most of the time, but I would travel to Texas, Montana, Barbados, where I'm from originally, doing anesthesia. So I still do clinical anesthesia quite extensively. I spend a lot of time doing that, but I also split my time managing a dental practice. I own a family dental office as well. I manage my and run my mobile anesthesia business, which, I pretty much do with my eyes closed. I've been doing it for so long. And also growing my consultancy business on that end as well. So it's very busy, what I'm doing right now, but all the skills that I've learned over the years, you wonder, oh, will I ever use this? Like, did I waste my time doing this? No. It all comes together at some point when you least expect it.
Yeah.
So I would have to say that I've had a really good ROI for the disciplines that I spent much of my time on. But clinical work is something that I do still quite a bit, and I guess it is one of the things I'm most known for is the clinical aspect.
Okay. With that said, can you please tell us and tell me and the listening audience, I mean, obviously you are able to extract yourself from your clinical business and go somewhere else.
Yes,
Like you just mentioned, you're all over the place, all over
right.
the country. So you have to be able to have somebody that's going to be there, that's going to do the job just as good as you, or not better, you know, uh, and feel comfortable with that, and still,
Yes,
and still make money in the business,
yes.
still be profitable. That is, can you talk about that? I mean, that is,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So here's the thing. Now, when I bought the dental practice, the goal was to grow it, scale it, use my business knowledge, use the experience that I've gained over time, seeing how things work and not work to build a successful practice. That is what I had it. That's what my intention was. Now, I had to determine, well, how I was really going to split my time between managing that and doing my anesthesia, which consumed the majority of my time. So I quickly recognized that the only way that I was going to be able to have a successful business, I had to pull myself away and, and put someone in place who I trust to do the day-to-day management of the business. And I have a wonderful a colleague and former student of mine who manages my dental practice for me. She manages the employees. She has just as much authority as I have being the owner. And she's on the ground day to day. So she's able to make certain decisions that I could not come in and make because I'm not there every day. So I can't clone myself. So I had to delegate. And one of the things that I quickly learned is that you need, there's a book called Who, Not How. So you need a lot of different who's, right? You need people that you trust that are able to that have a particular expertise to do the things that you need done. And I am not arrogant enough to think that I know it all. I certainly do not. And I know that she is very good at the details and she doesn't miss things. And I am so happy every time I talk to her because I said, this is the right person that has decided to join me. And it worked out for her, it works out for me. So it allows me then to focus on my mobile anesthesia and also the consultancy in the mobile anesthesia business. It's just me. So I don't have anyone that works with or for me, but that's something that I'm looking to change next year as I scale back from the clinical portion to put somebody in there that I can train that will do stuff the way how I want it to serve the clients that I've built up over the years. So you have to start thinking about uh, training people or bringing people in to do the jobs that you need done because, you're only one person.
That's so true. So then, have you figured out how long it would take? And I know this is probably a loaded
Sure.
question. Uh, how long it would take to actually bring somebody in to actually train them? I think the training more so than I don't know. You seem to have a pretty good knack on like who you want to bring in. The fact of training them is another situation. That's going to take time. I would assume. So what would you?
Yes, so it does take time,
Yeah.
but I have, look, I I avoid worrying about things that worrying does not change the outcome. So I know what it is I want to accomplish. So I put certain things in motion, but things happen when they're supposed to. Okay. So as long as you're prepared, things happen when they're supposed to. So I have talked to a number of individuals who have some interest in joining, but they have some other things that they have to do first and whatever. That doesn't bother me. I have set a target for myself and
Mhm.
say, by this time, I want to start stepping away. And I am not waiting for somebody to show up to step away. If I want to build my consultancy further, I have to put more time into it. So as of this is now we're in October now. I normally would, for the last 3 years, my schedule was always full a year ahead. So every day was accounted for working. But for next year, the only thing that's on my calendar is my trips home to see my parents and my sister. And I have scaled back 1 week of every month to not work. So I have decided that the only way that I am going to get this done is if I put that foot into the water. Like, uh, I don't know what your belief system is, but for me, my belief system is Christian. So I remember that the only way that the Red Sea parted was when Moses put his foot into the water and the sea parted. So I have to step out and plan, and I know that that individual will come to me. I'll find somebody who will work with me. I'm not worried about that because it, things change, evolve, and this is part of the evolution. So as of 2025, you're going to start seeing me do things a little bit differently because I'm now getting a little bit busier with the consultancy portion of it now too.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah. So then now, yeah, three businesses. Are there any others?
No, this is pretty much it. I have shed a lot of the things that were distractions, because I can't really sit still. I always have to be doing something. I have a million ideas of things that I want to do, and for some time I was doing is dabbling here, dabbling there, dabbling, and I'm like, okay, no, these are all distractions. I burned all those stuff away and focus on the things that I know are going to get me where I want to go. So even now, when people bring stuff up to me and say, "Oh, hey, how about it?" Nope, this is what I am doing. I am not going to be distracted because you need to really focus in if you really want to move further. If you spread yourself too thin, you're not going to be able to give the quality work that you really need to do. And I do anesthesia. I have to be prepared every single time. I work with kids as young as 18 months old.
Wow.
So I know I can't show up a day not prepared.
Mhm.
Just doesn't work that way,
Mhm.
So I have to always be knowledgeable, prepared, ready to do what I need to do and take care of the children that have been entrusted to me. So my focus is really now the consultancy and my anesthesia. And as I scale back clinically, I'll grow the consultancy even more.
So let's talk about the
Sure,
consultancy.
sure.
What exactly, and explain to us how did you come up with that idea and why?
Sure. Well, I think this was born out of the idea that I've always seen I've always envisioned myself not tied to a specific geographical location. And when you practice clinically like I do, I mean, I can move around the country and do different things, right? But I still have to be like there, zeroed in on the patient, taking care of them. Of course, the liability is high when you're doing anesthesia, but I have always seen myself as building, growing stuff. I like to fix problems. I like to build things. And a consultancy fits really well with my personality because somebody has a problem, I can come and I can help you fix it. So I've always wanted to do that. So that's how that started. And I decided that I was, instead of going back to school and doing this and that and that, this, no. I have all the knowledge that I need to do what it is I want. And I think sometimes people figure, oh, well, maybe I should do this. No, you have it. You just need to learn and figure out how to package it and to present it in a way that somebody would want to employ your services to do it. So I figured of all the years of my business knowledge, all the years of anesthesia and work in different places, I have been able to see many of the problems that pediatric offices, even general offices have when they're trying to integrate anesthesia services into their practices. There are a lot of holes and gaps in the way how it's done. And I realized that I can provide a service in that regard, especially with dental service organizations. I have worked for a number of those. And when they have multiple offices and trying to scale their anesthesia business, it's very disjointed. There's no protocol system in place that or quality assurance. And that's where I come in. I am the person who comes in and you say, okay, I want to have anesthesia in the office. Okay, this is what we put in place. This is what we do. These are the metrics. Here are the analytics. Here's what technology we can employ to work smarter, not harder, increase profitability, increase efficiency, and improve safety. Because, of course, we're dealing with human beings. And like I said, in my case, I work specifically with pediatric patients and pediatric DSOs. So I need them to understand how important these children are and that they need to have protocols and training in place to be able to support the type of work that they're wanting to do. It's not just simply, oh, let's call Dr. Johnson and have him come in and do anesthesia. No, it doesn't work that way. There's certain and there's certain offices that I don't go to or have been to only once because their setup, their layout, their culture, all those things were not conducive to providing a safe anesthetic. And I made it very clear that I would not be working in a situation like that. I have no problem telling somebody, no, I'm not working with them. So I've done that numerous times.
Oh wow, that is so important. I mean, knowing exactly what your boundaries are, setting them and not going beyond that. And then allowing people to make their own decision because they already know what decision you're going to make, you know? So that's
Correct.
great, man. That is so wonderful. So all of these pieces you seem to put together pretty well. So did you do puzzles when you were a child?
I did. My sister is really the puzzle master. She would bring home all top 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 piece puzzles. Even today, she'll still do stuff like that. So she was the one who liked doing a lot of puzzles. My brain and hers work similarly, but I'm the curious type of person, right? I always want to figure out how things work. And if something isn't working, I take it apart to figure out why it's not working and try to piece it together. That's how my brain thinks. I don't know. I can't think any other way. I figure my motto is there's always a way. And I always try to figure out what that is. And my mind is constantly going. So I wish I can give it a break sometimes, but it doesn't work that way. It just, it keeps turning.
Yeah, so you're like I mean, you're not only analytical, you creative. I mean, you like you just said, you tear things down, you break it down, and you put it back together. But then you might add something here and there, right? I
Correct.
mean, depending, of course, on how it fits, what you want to make of whatever it is that you're doing. That is interesting. Very insightful. I'm just wondering now how, when you like right now, when you're ready to take a vacation, you know how
Mhm.
hard it is for dentists to take a vacation.
Yes.
How do you construct that? I mean, like, what are you looking at, and are you thinking about when you are away, how many dollars are leaving the coffers?
You know what? I don't know. You must have been peeking into my brain because I I spent a lot of time. It's really, and I recognize that here is a shortcoming I have, right? Which is, as many of my colleagues and my close friends will tell you, I'm a workaholic, right? I like working. I enjoy what I do. I mean, it's tiring. I'm up at 3:30, 4 o'clock every day to work, it's busy. And I'm trying to bring the dollars in because there are things I want to do. But for a time there, when I went on vacation, I'd be like, okay, so these days I'm counting up. This is the money that's not being made. I'm like, geez, okay, so yeah, okay. So then it means I gotta make this up this way and that way, and that's what I'm calculating in my head. And that is not how you live. That is not how you live a successful, peaceful, fulfilled life. That is not what it's about. Because to be honest with you, we are not our work. I know many of us identify that way and feel like if we don't have this, we have nothing. But that's not how it is. So now you ask me specifically, now what do I do for vacations? Well, part of the issue was is that I was not taking vacations as I should. I was always working.
Mm,
And I recognize over the last number of years, like many of my friends would have get together, potlucks, different events they have, and every time they invite me, I was never available.
mm,
I was always gone working, always doing something. And it got to me enough that I said, I can't do this anymore. I said, I'm losing out on what life really means, and I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm still a planner when it comes to the financial part and determining what level of financial stability I need to have, but I am not tied to that much longer. My feeling is, look, what if I got sick and I couldn't work? Then what? Okay. So I can't build my life around that. I have to live each day, like people say, as if it's your last. You have to invest in the things that are often intangible, which are friendships and those types of things, to be and family, to be able to um live a fulfilled life. My parents and my sister are very important to me, so I want to spend more time with them. Hence, I set my schedule up because I plan my schedule. I set my schedule in such a way that I can spend time with them more often. So who cares what money I don't make? Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter. It'll come at some point. It is not that deep. It is not that important. It is, we as dentists typically don't live hand to mouth anyway. It's not like we're necessarily struggling. Uh, but even so, that life is not the job. Life is not work. It is a component of it, but it's not what it is. This is not, at the end of the day, you can't take it with you. Some places in the world, they bury you without pockets because you don't want anything in the grave with you. So I take vacations. I actually have one coming up in 2 weeks. And I'll be going home and hanging out with my parents and my sister. And next year that I will be home pretty much every month, taking time to spend with them. Oh, 100% easy. Because again, it doesn't matter what happens with work. At the end of the day, it's my family that I care about, and I'm gonna spend the time with them because I don't know how much longer I I have with them or they have with me. None of us know. So yes, money is important, career goals are important, but none of that is more important than my family.
Yeah, I get it. At some point, enough is enough.
Correct.
Uh, there's no price, as you mentioned, there's no price on making a contribution to that emotional bank account. You know, people really like that, and then you like it. I mean, it's easy, especially your loved ones. It's easy to like for that to be like a give and take kind of situation. That's wonderful. So, are there any like new inventions, technology that you've been looking at that's going to help you do what you do best? And I mean, you do three things. Let's start off
Mhm.
with anesthesiology because you're all over the place with that one.
Yes. Okay. That's fantastic. That's perfect. Yes. I have been building a platform with some AI engineers. Incidentally, I have a meeting with them later on this evening uh, that automates a lot of the scheduling and health histories and those things. Because over the years, I have made my business uh, is fully digital. There's no paper that exists in the business.
Awesome.
Um, but I recognize I'm always I'm always tinkering to make sure I can make something better. So when I recognize that there are deficiencies, I fix it. So I'm working on a platform that will that combines connects dental service organizations or dentists with anesthesiologists. It allows them to fully interact with each other, book the anesthesiologist, look at the office, take care of patients, provide analytics on the patients for the offices, those types of things. And it just makes streamlining the process of integrating anesthesia into practices quite easy. So if you wanted to book an anesthesiologist or anesthesiology group, you're able to vet them on this system. Uh, and be able to reach out, talk to them, gather all the information. Everything you need is there. So, for example, in California, where I am, there are certain things you need to provide anesthesia in the dental office, according to the Dental Board of California. And so if you're hiring somebody to come into the office, they need to have all these things. Well, when you're on that platform, you can be sure that everybody who's on there has meets all the criteria to be able to provide the anesthetic in the office. So the platform does everything for you, seamless integration, scheduling, automatic, easy. You don't have to lift too much of a finger to do anything. So we are finishing up the development of that right now. So that's how I'm using technology in anesthesia. And as far as efficiency and into the dental office, I have colleagues who I work with, psychologists, statisticians, etc., who work on training every person in the dental office, from schedulers, front office, dentists, anesthesiologists, all the way down, to make sure that when you are working with patients and especially something like anesthesia, which is some people are very fearful of it. They don't know, they hear all kinds of things about it. You want them to be trained in such a way that the patient experience, if you put the patient at the center, everything is about the patient experience. And you want to make sure that the patient is safe, they have a good experience when they come into the office, but at the same time, you as a business owner are improving on your margins, stop money from walking out the door by being inefficient in the way how you set up your system. So our platform helps offices get rid of all that stuff and focus in on efficiency and safety. And increasing revenues and stuff like that. That's typically what I'm tinkering with. So we're still doing some testing on it and stuff like that. So that is likely to be rolled out next year.
And so is this project that you're working on, is that like a is that proprietary?
It
Proprietary?
is, yes, it
Oh,
is
okay.
perfect. Yeah, it
Oh,
is because I am using certain analytics and methods that I have not seen used before, based on my experience, um, visiting all these various offices, hundreds of offices over the years,
uh-huh.
and figuring out certain things that I have recognized um, cause issues that some people don't even think are issues, but that I pointed out, they're like, oh. And for a number of years, I've gone around to different offices and say, hey, if you did this, this, and this, it will make a big difference. They've done it, seen the difference, and they're like, oh, wow, this is way better than what we've been doing before. So I was like, yeah, because I see it. That's how my mind works. I can walk into a place and I look around and I can tell you what doesn't make sense when I see people doing it. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. This is a better way to do it. So that's how my mind works. So I figure I'll provide that service through my consultancy to these multi-site offices or these pediatric DSOs. That's what I kind of do on the side. I'm building that part up as well.
So is that like to to let people know that you're actually doing that? Are you marketing that part of the business or
Well, right. Yes. So you'll see that every single week I post on certain articles on LinkedIn every single week. I'm also working on a video series, so you'll start seeing videos of me every week as well, no more than 2 minutes, where I am speaking on a specific topic. I just was at a DSO summit in Atlanta last week. Networking, interacting with colleagues, learning a lot from individuals there, and also offering myself to provide value to them in any way that they may see fit. So that is how I am getting myself out there in various different ways. I have colleagues that have in different organizations who uh, typically would share my information with other people who are looking for my services. So I've had that happen to me twice last week. So
wow.
it's going well because this is what I will be doing for the foreseeable future, which is to help other people grow and safe in this space. That's what I'm going to be working on going forward.
Okay. So is it right to think that in your consultancy business, it won't take as much time as your clinical uh,
Correct.
anesthesia business? So
Correct. That is
that's,
exactly right.
that's why you're scaling back on those pieces
Correct.
to get over there. And so you can go and see your parents and your sister every month.
Correct. Because sometimes we always would say, I'm sure this has happened to you and even some of the people, some of your viewers, where you say, you know what? Um, when this happens, I'm gonna do this. I'll do this next year. I'll do this tomorrow. And the thing is, we really don't know what's gonna happen next year. We don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, even, right? From one moment to the next, we don't know. So if I decided and if I said to myself, look, I am going to wait 5 years before I do X, Y, or Z, I bet you that 5 years is going to come and go, and I still am not going to do it. I
Right.
guarantee you. Happens to a lot of people because life happens in the beginning, in between there somewhere. So the way how I view it, I'm not saying this is the only way, but the way how I view it is if I want to do something, then do it.
Mhm.
So if I want to go and see my parents more often, I go see them more often. You say, well, then what happens to the money? It will sort itself out. That's just how it works. If I want to build my consultancy business, then I have to put more time into the business. So which means I scale back the number of days that I typically will work now to spend on course content, developing, networking, going to events, whatever I need to do to build that. You have to. I mean, What am I waiting for? So you have to put your foot out there, and there's a trade-off. So you may lose something on this side, but you'll gain on this side. But you'll lose both if you put nothing into attempting one over the other. You just cannot. It just doesn't work that way. Nothing is going to magically happen unless you make it happen. So that's how I view it, and that's exactly how I have decided to do things, is to scale back the clinical, put time into the consultancy. As I've seen there's more interest, more people are reaching out, and I'm having more conversations with people. I can see how quickly this can take off, and it gets me where I want to go.
And then it would sounds like, I mean, at some point, then you I don't know, you tell me.
Mhm.
You gotta figure out how to scale that down when it start hitting so hard. I mean, like, who's going to be able to come in here and do your work? I mean, they're not going to do it, obviously, not like you do it, but man,
This
that's
is
a good
true.
problem to have, though, I
Oh
guess.
yeah, and I'm looking forward to that problem. I'm looking forward. Oh, you don't hear me complaining, sir. I am looking forward to that problem. So we can have a conversation again when I have that problem. I'll tell you how I handle it then. But for right now, it's okay.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then, what do you see in the future for the dentist industry? Do you see anything that's coming down the pike that may change it drastically? How do you see it?
Yes, two things. Uh, One, as is with every single industry as we know it now, I mean, it was just one day you everything was normal, and then the next day you heard about AI, and then all of a sudden it's taken off,
Yes.
explosion, and it's a good thing. Now, everything that technology-wise can be used for nefarious purposes, we are aware of that, but it's not to stop us from moving forward. So that is one area that we've already seen. That one example of that are there's several companies that are using AI to diagnose or help the dentist diagnose caries and all those types of things, periodontal disease, and it is widespread implementation of those programs and platforms into dentistry right now all over the country. That's something that you see everywhere you turn. There's always some company coming up with something that will help manage that, whether it's telecommunications, cybersecurity, on the clinical side of dentistry, the business side of dentistry. That's one. Then two, I recently saw, and I mean, this has been coming for some time, from the time you were in dental school, and they made these machines that uh, you could you get what they call force feedback. So there were these machines that they had, like, for when you're learning dentistry, you have this handpiece, and it's like using virtual reality. You can prep a tooth, and you can feel it's as if you were in the mouth. You can feel it through the handpiece in this virtual reality space. That technology has been around for a long time. Now they're actually developing robots that actually repair teeth, fill cavities, do all those things much faster, more accurately, better than the dentist. So those are things on the horizon. There's no way to stop that from happening. Okay. Um, the key is obviously, especially when I was in business school, there was we learned something called design thinking, which is like human focus, human centered uh, um, intervention. So in other words, everything has to be focused around the patient. So the patient must benefit. So if you're using technology for the sake of it, just because it may be cool and whatever the case is, that is not really the thrust, or that should not be the motive. The motive should be, how can I provide a service that will make it better for my patient? If we're in this industry, that's why we're here. Yes, we're making money and stuff, but these are patients who are expecting you to treat them with the empathy and compassion that they expect from healthcare professionals. Sadly, not all of us are that way, but most of us are. So the patient still needs to be at the center of all these technological advances. So on the one hand, AI will revolutionize a lot of things from the business side and the clinical side. And then we start talking about automations and robotics and remote dental work, because especially like in rural areas where there are no dentists, you can put a machine out there, send an assistant or hygienist or whomever is they determine would be an ideal person to supervise. Send a machine out there, the patient show up, sit in the chair, and there's a dentist somewhere remotely working on teeth. They don't have to be in the office to do that. So they're working with a patient on teeth from afar. Or you have the machine that just sits there, scans the mouth, tell it exactly what you wanted to do. The patient opens up, they go in, fix everything, done. So this is where things are headed. But again, the patient always has to be the one that is the important one, and the patient has to be safe. The technology has to be safe. And that's where I see things. I think it's exciting, really. I don't think you're necessarily replacing a dentist. You can't, you will not be, you wouldn't do that. But it just means that dentistry will shift away a little bit in the focus and the way how we do things right now, but all to the benefit of the patient, I believe.
Wow. So when you scan, that doesn't have anything to do with radiation, I'm assuming now.
No, not necessarily. So right now, okay, when I was going through dental school, uh, let's see, when I first started, the way how we would make certain what they call provisional restorations or temporaries. So we prepare the tooth, we have to put a temporary on it in order for the final restoration to happen. You've been to the dentist and they take these impressions with all the goop. You're like, oh, this is choking me, or all this to get this thing out my mouth, or whatever the case is. Oh, horrible sometimes for gaggers, a mess. There's some dental offices who do not have any impression material in their office at all. Because why? The advent of scanning, 3D scanning intraorally, almost every dental office, I don't think I've been into any dental office recently, especially a general dentist office where there is, well, even pediatrics. Let's think about clear aligners, orthodontics, where you scan, you don't do the impressions any longer. You just scan the mouth. It captures the images very, very well. You send it to a lab, it prints the stuff out, boom, done. Or in the office, you can get a crown the same day. That never used to happen many places before. Now it's commonplace. You scan it, couple minutes, they say, okay, you can come back in 30 minutes for your crown, or you could just kind of hang out here and I'll bring it, deliver it, go home. It used to be before that, come back in 2 weeks.
Right.
Right? No, that doesn't happen anymore. Very few people will tell you that now. So we're talking about 3D scanning. We're talking about digital X-rays, which provide the machines now are better at reducing the amount of radiation that a patient will need to be exposed to. Also, the practitioner to very negligible levels. So, I mean, that is the pace at which things have gone and are going. So we see the future where you can get more people cared for because you have more tools and you use technology to do it. No longer will it be because I live out on a ranch somewhere in the woods or whatever that I can't get cured because a dentist doesn't want to come to me. So, oh, well, here's this center we can go to. The dentist will work on you remotely, or we have this machine that will do the scan and prep the teeth and print the crown out and give it to you. This is where we're going. And it's only a matter of time. Things tend to accelerate at a really rapid pace, especially with AI right now. It moves the ball much faster than it used to go before.
Yeah, yeah. I was sitting on a webinar yesterday where this lady, she was giving us information about AI, and she was speaking on some of the statistics. She says, really, there's like a very small portion of people. I think it was like 6% of the businesses that's actually using AI.
Oh yeah, but I do. I can tell
I mean,
you.
6%, that is,
Mhm.
I mean, that is insane. I mean, to think of it like that.
Imagine if that were 12% or 15 were
Mm,
doing it. Again, we are I think it takes a while for people to adopt certain things. So they're the first movers, early adopters. And then when people see, because some people are skeptical, rightfully so, I understand. And I have no issue with that at all. But I like to be on the cutting edge of stuff, right? I like to know what's going on. I want to be there. As a matter of fact, I consider myself a little bit of a futurist as well. I want to be where people don't know they need to be several years from now. That is how I think, right?
mhm.
And this is AI. We're not going to go back. It is here to stay. And if if dentistry specifically, because I know dentists tend to be a little insular into themselves, they set up their own shop, they don't want anybody to tell them nothing, they just do their own thing. Well, get it, nothing wrong with that, but you'll be quickly left behind if you don't implement some of these things. I've been to a few offices recently and say, hey, do y'all use this particular software? They're like, huh? You're talking about, we never heard of that before. I said, excuse me, what do you mean? Never heard. I'm like, yeah, let me show you. And because they were trying to tell me, oh, doc, it would be really nice if we had something that did what I said, actually, that already exists. Here it is. They're like, what? Really? I said, yeah, where have you been? So I could believe that statistic, even if the number is not exact. I do believe it's a very small amount of individuals. I do have friends who say, hey, I heard about this chat GPT and this. Can you show me how to use it? I don't know what this is about. I was like, oh, sure, I can help you with whatever. But um, there are people who you know, you will be left behind if you do not. And since we're talking about dentistry, you will be left behind if you don't adopt certain things, you'll be obsolete. And patients have expectations. And if you don't have this, they're not coming to you.
That's right.
They'll go to somebody else who has, because their friend is going to tell them, hey, uh, Dr. Powell down the street has this machine and he's using this AI technology that such and such happens, and I'm out of there in like 10 minutes. And they're like, huh? This guy, I was there for like 3 hours. Like, what are you talking about? And that is how you start to that's how some people have to learn the hard way when they start seeing the consequences of not adopting certain things. They'll quickly recognize that if they don't, they're out of business.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of how I say it. And I'm not the person to be left behind. I have enough friends in the various areas that share with me what's going on to know what's happening. I am not, you can't really surprise me too much with anything because I tend to hear about what's going on. I stay up to date with stuff, I'm always online reading and looking at stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So then you've parted some very, very great pieces of information. I was just wondering, what kind of advice would you give a new dentist? And what should they be looking at given all of this technology that's at their fingertips?
Mhm.
Um, and how should they look at the business side as well? What kind of information would you share with them? What's the most important three things that you can think of?
Okay, well, first of all, what I would say is No longer are we in a society where a man is an island or a woman is an island. It doesn't work that way. We're all so much more interconnected, not just between me up the street and you down the street, but me here in the United States and somebody in China or Japan, right? We're all that much interconnected. And I have found you can go much further with people than by yourself. So I don't go it alone. Anytime I have an idea of something I want to implement, I always look to see who I can get to bring along with me to collaborate on a project. I don't want to do it by myself. Could I? Yes, but why? So I would tell anybody one thing is when you're coming out and starting, find people, connect with them, learn from them, and collaborate because you can get further together. You don't have to do everything by yourself. That's not the selfish way. It's not going to work. The second thing is find a good mentor, for example. Find somebody you respect and trust. They may not necessarily be in dentistry, but you see them and you realize that they have been successful in the way you would want to be successful in life or in business. Talk to them about the attitudes that they employ or have that got them where they are. Because I find most people are happy to share that with you. You think, oh, this person will never tell you because it's a secret. There's no secret. There are people who are happy to share if you put yourself out there to ask the questions. They're happy to share with you because I know, for example, anybody that reaches out to me, I'm happy to help, happy to share what I know because I have made tons of mistakes, which I could have avoided by talking to more people. So that's the second bit of information. The third thing I would say is always be open. You have your principles and things that are non-negotiable. So for example, I personally will never go skydiving. This is a simple example, but I'll never do that. Not interested. People take these videos, these pictures. Hey, look at me. Not couldn't even care less. You understand? I'm not doing that kind of stuff. That is not me. Bungee jumping, climbing this, That is my principle. That's my line. But in my mind, I always say to people, remain open and hear a different point of view. Be open to a certain technology or a certain way of doing something that you may not have done before. And I'm always fascinated by every time I go somewhere and somebody is doing something, so like, why do you do it this way? They're like, oh, doc, well, because I said, wow, I like that. I'm gonna do mine that way too. The way how I built my business, especially anesthesia, there are some things that are uniquely me. Nobody else does it the way I do it. I know that for a fact. And it has helped me distinguish myself among several of my colleagues. Many of them are fantastic, excellent clinicians, but I do stuff a particular way, they do stuff a particular way. But I am not self-centered and arrogant enough to tell you that the way how I practice and I am excellent at what I do is because I have learned from so many people. My friends in Texas, Montana, California, everywhere had methods that I see them use, I incorporate into my stuff, made me better. So I am somewhat of an amalgamation of learnings and from other people because I've been open to learning new things and better ways. If your way is better than mine, I'll ditch mine. I don't care. I'm not married to it that I can't recognize when it's not as good as yours. So those are the three things I would say, mentorship, collaboration, and be open to different points of views, different ways of doing things, because that is how we grow, that is how we improve. And I guess lastly, as an overall principle is always be willing to give back, always be willing to share. Don't keep stuff to yourself. Do not be selfish. You think you're going to get far. I guarantee you, as I know my name, you will not get very far being selfish. You will not. So always be looking to give, share, because the more you give, the more you get back.
Well said, indeed. Thank you so much I mean, for coming in and giving us these well thought out. I mean, like, I don't even know if you have to think about it. A lot of the information that you had is just naturally you. I want to say thank you very much, Dr. Neal Johnson, for coming in and speaking to the audience about the things that you had that I'm sure that they're going to take and use and do some wonderful things with. Um, if someone wanted to get in touch with you to ask a question on some of the information you shared, how would they do that?
Oh, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You'll just find me as Neal Johnson DDS. Just look for me on LinkedIn and send me a message, whatever. I think my email is on there. I think it's on there. I'm not sure, but shoot me a direct message through LinkedIn. That's kind of the best way to get to me. And if we need to set up a discovery call or some call, depending on what it is you want to know, I'm happy to do that. My assistant can put you on the calendar, and we can go from there. Not a problem at all.
And I have to say, just based on my communications with Dr. Johnson, he's on top response. I mean, he's all over it. Thank you again for joining us. And I'd like to talk to you again at some point. This
Absolutely.
this has been great.